What's the craziest butterfly effect that happened to you because of a small decision you made? I had to call my heart surgeon to give him my new insurance hashes. I had only just gotten them because the person who had them had the flu and was not getting back to me as soon as I got my numbers. I called surgeon. The receptionist said, "Oh, hey, we just had a cancellation for this Friday. Do you want it?" Of course I wanted to get it over and not wait another month. Decided to take the open heart surgery cancellation appointment a month before my actual appointment. And well, surgeon said that thank goodness I did, because once he got a look inside, he realized I would not have survived to the original appointment date. So, if the insurance lady didn't have the flu, I would have gotten those numbers a lot sooner and never gotten the offer to have the surgery when I did. Someone else's flu saved my life. Decided I would rather use my bathroom than a porta potty. Found my wife cheating. She attempted suicide. I moved multiple states away. In the 7 years since, I have made nothing but positive changes and went from $18 hour laborer to a well-respected person in my profession making 6 figures. I'd probably still be working that dead-end job. Aside from that, without recounting all the details, I went to see a doctor about a splinter from chopping firewood. 6 months later they removed most of my kidney with renal cell carcinoma. Without the splinter I'd likely be dead from kidney cancer. I decided to invite my chemical lab partner to lunch on the first day of college, just to be friendly and try to make more than one friend at school. We met up with the only other friend I'd made at school so far. He thought my lab partner was cute, invited himself to hang out with her, and then fell in love with her roommate instead. He ended up married to the roommate. They've been together for 22 years and have 2 children. So a few years back, I lived in Nice, south of France, for a while. As a musician I would make a bit of extra cash busking. And one day, I figured I'd go and busk at the Promenade d'Anglaise by the sea. It's usually packed, and it's just a generally pleasant place to be. I set up, played a couple of songs, and was doing pretty well and making a decent amount of money. Then suddenly not one, but 2 of my guitar strings snapped. I even remember I was playing The Scientist at the time. I was massively gutted and decided to cut my losses early. I stormed off home, by the station, in a bit of a sulk at having to restring my guitar, and cutting short what was essentially one of my most productive days of busking since moving there. Literally 1 hour later, my phone starts to blow the duck up with family and friends freaking out and asking if I was at the promenade. It was Bastille Day, 2016. The truck drove into the same crowd I was playing to, killing 86 people, including my at the time GF's uncle. I had 2 other friends who were amongst the 458 injured. I moved home the next month because it was too much and haven't been back since. It's hard to explain. Sometimes I think I was super lucky. Sometimes I just kind of cry and wonder why I was lucky and others weren't. It's surreal. And despite what people think, it's a truly horrible feeling. Semicolon. Edit. I'm overwhelmed by the support of people. I will be getting therapy, and hopefully in time I'll be able to return to Nice, as it was one of my favorite places on earth. Take care of yourselves, and if you've been through something similar, it looks like help is out there. Thank you all. Watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and got so annoyed at the candidates not knowing a simple question about Katy Perry that I applied. Got in. Got to play. Won a lot of money. Booked a holiday to a dream destination with that money. Met my husband there. We now have a 1-year-old son. In high school I took an intermediate biology course. I had never done biology before, but was good at science generally, so I thought the intermediate course would be a good fit. My science teacher of a couple year previous happened to walk into my class to talk to the biology teacher, and she spotted me in the class. She asked me what grades I had got the previous year. I told her, and she nodded and left. A minute later she came back in and asked me to gather my belongings and leave the class. I was pretty sure I was in trouble for something I couldn't recall. She led me to another classroom and sat me down on an empty chair. Then she just started teaching. Turns out that she was running the advanced class that year and just decided to steal me as a student. I went on to take biology at undergrad level and then a master's. I ended up doing a PhD in immunology and now work as an advisor for pharma companies. It gets better though. I decided I wanted to do my masters in London and met a girl on the way. We are now 10 years in and own a house together. All that because that teacher happened to look in my direction. I had to renew the sticker on my license plate a couple of years ago and really didn't feel like sitting in the waiting room by myself forever. So I told my mom I'd take her out to dinner after if she came with me. The guy working at the counter turned out to be my mom's long lost biological brother. If she hadn't come with me, I would have never known. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. I'll let my mom know that you all think her story is cool too. Cheers. My husband. He found out after 18 years that his mom's side of the family was Spanish, not Mexican. He found this interesting and changed his country to Spain on MySpace instead the US, where he really was. Meanwhile in Australia, I was helping my friend find Spanish people to add as a friend as she was learning the language. I came across my now husband and decided to send him a friend request as well. We got along really well and met in person after 3 years. Have been together 11 years. Married for 7. If he didn't change his country to Spain and only for a day or so, we'd never know each other existed. Made a last minute decision to go to a friend's divorce party and met my wife. My desire for pizza set off a chain reaction that destroyed my family. One day got home from school and really wanted pizza. Family was poor, so spontaneous food trips weren't always in the cards. Really worked my pouty face to my mom and begged to go to the local pizza place for dinner. She said alright. While chilling there I saw my uncle walk by and I was like, Daduck, Uncle X, is that you? Now you might say, well, he wanted pizza, what's the big deal? Well, he lived several states away, so to arbitrarily be in town and not tell anyone was strange. Turned out he was having an affair with his sister-in-law, my aunt on the other side of the family. She was basically a money-grubbing whore and the family protested. One thing led to another and everyone hates each other now and we haven't had contact in like 20 years. I just wanted some pizza. Domino's effect. My existence. When my dad was about 20, he needed a phone number, so he called the operator from a payphone. She gave him the number. He hung up and she accidentally refunded the money back to the payphone. She called the payphone back and asked him if he could put the money back in, which he did, and hung up again. She accidentally refunded the money again and had to call back again to ask him to put the money back in. He didn't, hung up again. She was so flustered. She refunded the money again and called back again, and my father got to chatting with her and got her number. They set up a date, which she stood him up for. Then she forgot his name when he called her again. Then they actually got coffee and 4 years later were married. This coming August it'll be 50 years for them. If my dad didn't need that phone number, I wouldn't be here. Edit. My dad still calls it the most expensive phone call he ever made. About a year ago, I went to a study group with some people in my major. Now I have the closest set of friend I could ever ask for. They helped me when my car was broken and I couldn't get to and fro from college. When I didn't have enough money to buy myself food. Now, I have a good job, and 2 of my friends and I are getting an apartment together in a couple of months. About 10 years ago, there were no PC games to play, so I tried using Windows XP's Movie Maker out of boredom. I didn't know that I'm going to enjoy it and take it seriously. Now, I'm currently working on a TV/film production as a video editor. Clarification, I mean, there's no games that is installed with our computer back then. 4 years ago, a kid I barely knew from school invited me to a Six Flags. I was a bit of a loner at the time, and I heard rumors about this kid being weird, so I intended to not go. On the day he wanted me to go, I was feeling extra bored and decided on a whim, why not? So I went and met this kid and 2 of his friends I've never met at a Six Flags. 4 years later, and that kid is my best friend. And I have 3 other very close friends I met through him. Not only that, but I also met my first girlfriend because of the connections some of my new friends had. It transformed my high school years from being alone to having an amazing group of friends I could do almost anything with. I intended to ask my best friend to be my best man one day, and I don't intend on ever getting out of touch with any of them. I'm home from college now, and we are going to have a lot of fun together. Best decision I've ever made. The older I get, the more I'm constantly cognizant of the vast cascade of seemingly insignificant decisions and actions that led me to where I am. For example, a decision 25 years ago to change a refrigerator light bulb before going out resulted in my being at the wrong time and place so as to get mugged, which resulted in my decision to move out of the city I had been living in, which resulted in my meeting my wife, and from there to having all my kids and the whole shebang. I would have had a different whole shebang had I not changed that light bulb that afternoon. But the path to the present leads through that and 1,000 other similarly trivial decisions. Was going to carpool with my aunt to a family gathering. At the last minute I decided to go by myself so I could leave early if I wanted. It was a ways out of town and I didn't want to be stuck there. On the way there she drove off the road into a ditch. She was okay, but the passenger side of her car was totally smashed in. At a university career fair and just as a long day taking to companies and heading out, when I see a Honda booth. Designing cars would be awesome, but there is a huge line. It has been a long day, and what are the chances? But wait, they are giving away hats and shirts and model cars. So I talk to them. A day later I get a call back for an online assessment. I fill that out and don't hear anything back for a month or so. I get a call one night saying I was an alternate and someone cancelled last minute, so they want to fly me up for on-site interviews. I go and end up getting and accepting an offer. After graduation I move about 1,000 miles away from home for my new job where a few years after I meet my now wife and we have 2 kids. I never would have crossed paths with her otherwise. So the entire course of my life was shifted because Honda gave away good swag at their career fair booth. My parents' dream was to have a famous child. When my older sister's figure skating career ended in her early 20s, the spotlight shifted to me. I was a fine oboist and took private voice lessons with intent to audition for the local music faculty, opera. Close bracket. In any case, there was a lot of pressure, and while I was successful at school and classical music, it was never enough. At 17, before senior year began, my sister gifted me a kitten. My parents had given her 2 in her senior year and the implication was that it was my turn. When my sister dropped me off, my parents locked me out, saying that if I wanted my own pet I needed my own place. So I found one. That night, I worked 3 jobs to support myself through senior year and graduated with entrance scholarships to both of the local universities. I couldn't afford a music degree while living on my own, even with the entrance scholarships. And good thing, entering the workforce showed me how much I love active jobs. 3 years later, I enrolled in college and became an industrial mechanic / millwright, to my parents' great shame. After a few years of this, I landed a sweet contract where I work on Saturdays and Sundays, but receive a full week's pay. Although I'm a living beacon of disappointment, I comfort myself with my $100K a year job, 2-day work week, and 2 cats. Being kicked out over a kitten saved me from wasting years chasing an improbable career just to please my parents. Edit, spelling. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.